Hey everybody, my name is Kip, and I just today had the Latarjet procedure done on my shoulder, and I wanted to make a video because when I was doing research for this procedure, I just noticed that there wasn't a lot out there, which was interesting, especially not a lot out there in English. It seems to be a pretty popular surgery in Europe and around the world, but not so much in America. And I wanted to, at least get some information out there. So I want to make a couple of vlogs, kind of just going through my experience and what I know about this and kind of what I've learned. I did a lot of research kind of in advance to learn about this procedure before deciding to go through with it. So, but just to give you background on kind of my history, so 20 years ago when I was in high school, I dislocated my shoulder 3 times. I did it first in a basketball game, then did it in a football game, and then I did it sneezing the third time. And at the time, we weren't able to get me surgery because we were on Medicaid, so it wasn't something we could afford. So I ended up just doing PT and trying to recuperate or kind of revitalize the shoulder a little bit to make it a little bit better. Then had no problems for 20 years. 20 years later, and here I am. I'm doing jujitsu at my local gym here, and had a guy put me in an arm bar. He pulled a little too hard, and boom, shoulder popped right out. So I had to be taken by ambulance, taken to the hospital. And one thing I noticed a lot is that people will talk about like, oh, I dislocate my shoulder like all the time. For me, that's like fathomable, because I mean it was extreme pain for me. I couldn't move. I mean, I could see the ball and socket kind of like down here. It felt like a 10 out of 10. They ask you like on the scale from 1 to 10. I mean, it was like a 10 out of 10 on pain. They had to give me medication just to get me into the ambulance to take me to the hospital. They sedated me to pop it back in. So I don't know if other people have had that experience of having it be like extreme pain, but there was no chance of like it kind of wows me when I hear people say like, oh, I've dislocated it 17 times this year or something. There was no possibility of me lethal weaponing it and running into the wall. I couldn't move off the ground.
It does, but not as much as when I put it back in.
So maybe I'm just a wuss. I don't think so, but maybe. Anyway, so I was taken to the hospital. They popped it back in, like I said. I went and saw my orthopedic surgeon on Monday. Checked it out. He had me wear the sling up to that point. After that, said I didn't have to wear the sling. That was surprising to me that I didn't have to wear the sling for almost immediately after dislocating it. But apparently that's what the research says now, is that wearing the sling after first few days isn't really necessary, which I was able to find in the peer-reviewed literature as well, which is great. So after that, got the MRI. MRI came through, and went over back to see the orthopedic surgeon after he was able to review the MRI. Now, there's 2 procedures that are generally done for shoulder stability. One is the Bankart, which is an arthroscopic surgery, and the other is the Latarjet. We tend to do the Bankart more in America, but if you have significant bone loss in your shoulder, you get the Latarjet is actually shown to be quite a bit better. The rate of dislocation for a Bankart, dislocating again for a Bankart or for a Latarjet is relatively low. I think it's like 10% chance you'll dislocate with a Bankart. It's only like 5% chance with a Latarjet. But if you have missing bone, like when your shoulder dislocates, if the ball and socket or the glenoid get damaged and are missing significant amount of bone, like over 15 to 20%, then it's indicated that with the Bankart you have up to like over a 40% chance of a redislocation. So that's how you end up at a Latarjet procedure. So for those who are potentially getting this procedure, it can seem a little scary. I know I was very freaked out when I learned what they were doing. They take this bone that's up in your shoulder called the coracoid, and they cut it off, and there's a tendon attached to it, and then they graft it onto your ball and socket, like onto the glenoid, onto your ball and socket, and that acts as a bone barrier to stop the shoulder from dislocating. They have to go through a muscle to get there, so it's kind of like creates this, uh, like there's a hole in the muscle that they create a tear, and then they loop this tendon through with the coracoid, and then apparently that creates what they call a dynamic sling. So that when you raise your arm like this is obviously not my hurt arm, your arm gets like has this pressure on it that keeps the shoulder in place via that sling. I'll tell you guys, when I heard about that, that freaked me out. Absolutely scared the crap out of me. That seemed really weird. It felt like really extreme, really unnatural. But what I learned through my research is this is how most of the world fixes shoulders. It's only here in America that we do the arthroscopic Bankart. Now, for the Latarjet, they can do it arthroscopically, but there's more complications that if they do that, which is interesting because you think it'd be less. For those who don't, arthroscopic means you do little keyholes and you put a camera in. So what I actually, yeah, so I actually, most Latarjets are done with an open surgery, which again was something that scared me a little bit. But my incision's pretty small. I think me and my wife are both surprised at how little it is. When I'm a little more healed up and I have my ice machine on, and I have my sling here. I don't know if you guys can see like what I'm dealing with. And I have a sweatshirt over to kind of keep me warm. So later on in one of the videos, I'll actually show you the incision. It's pretty small though, smaller than I thought. I've seen other ones that were, mine's more, like here. Okay, so talk about the day at the hospital. So went in this morning. I actually got called in early. I was supposed to have my surgery at noon, and they called me really early, and they said if you want to come in early, you can, which I was very happy to do. I didn't want to sit around and think about this all day. So I went in and got taken back relatively quickly. They asked me a million questions. Are you allergic to this? Or you have any reactions if you've ever had surgery before? All this stuff, making sure everything's okay. I'll get to the stuff that's important, which is the nerve block. So at my hospital, they made the nerve block optional. Everything I read online and it saw online was like, absolutely do it. I didn't even expect it to be optional. The anesthesiologist comes in. They come and they put a needle up here in the back of your shoulder. There was local anesthetic. I didn't even feel it when it happened, realistically. It has now been about 9 hours or 8 hours since my surgery. I am still nerve blocked at this point, completely numb. My arm feels dead. There's a constant kind of feeling of like my fingers are, like I can move my fingers. Like you see, I can move my fingers. But some people I've seen online can't, but I'm able to. But my hand feels like it's asleep. So up here, I feel kind of nothing, but then my hand feels just like if I like were to have, like when it's in an odd position and you fall asleep at night and you wake up and your hand's asleep. That's kind of what it feels like. So I was told to take the pain medication pretty much right away when I got home. As well as an anti-inflammatory. You're not allowed to take ibuprofen, but they gave me a special anti-inflammatory. So I took those medications right when I got home. They said to just kind of get them going. I just took my second one. I'm supposed to take them like every 6 hours. From what I understand, it's pretty painful once the nerve block wears off. So everybody who I think I've seen who has handled this successfully has been really, really all over the pain medication. Me and my wife set an alarm for 5 hours from now in the middle of the night so that we could, take another pill and get ahead of it. Anyway, so nerve block goes in, took me back. Obviously, I was, put to sleep instantly. Slept through the procedure, woke up. Surgeon came and talked to me, said everything went well, went perfectly. For what a complex procedure it was, I was pretty surprised. I mean, the surgeon I saw was just like, well, duh, of course it went well. I do a million of these. And I think that's something that's like, just to keep in mind, they were doing 5 shoulder surgeries today. He said it's not uncommon for them to do more in a day. So if you're really freaking out, I mean, just remember that they're doing like hundreds of these a year. So that made me feel better. I mean, he kind of the surgeon's attitude was like, well, why wouldn't it go? I mean, I do a million of these, you know. So um, I hope that gives you some ease, because I was kind of, it just seemed really complex, and apparently it really isn't. They were done in like under 2 hours with the whole surgery. So things to know, kind of coming home and what to expect. The ice, you get offered an ice machine, which is basically this giant pad that like fits on your shoulder, and it connects down to this machine, and I'll show you what the machine looks like. It's down there, right? You fill it with ice, and it stays cold for most of the day, and it keeps a constant cold on your shoulder. That just, I mean, it was expensive. It was like $175 to get the machine. You get to keep it, so if you ever have a future injury, it's good to have. But for me, it just made sense to go through with that purchase because I didn't want to have to keep getting up and replacing ice packs constantly. And plus, the pad that they have is like perfectly made for the shoulder. I'd say a couple of the smaller issues is just like it has to be plugged in and then it has to be connected to you. So if you like move, you either have to unplug it, which it's hard to unplug because it's on your opposite side. You know, it's on the side you can't go around your sling to get. Um, and then you have to unplug it from the wall, and you potentially have to, you know, if you wanted to bring it with you, you'd have to carry it. So anyway, it can be a little goofy. Again, it's really helpful if you have a partner or a wife, husband, whatever, you know, that can help you out with all that. Pain tonight, I haven't felt basically any pain. Maybe a little tiny bit if like moving, like when I went to the bathroom, I kind of felt a little bit. But pain has been nothing so far. I mean, I would give it like a 2 or 3 out of 10 at max, and most of the time I would say it's a 1 to 0. So if you're worried kind of about like immediately after surgery, I haven't felt anything. Other instructions I was given: no showering until after Sunday, so I'll be, you know, kind of a stinky guy for like 2 days here, um, and just keep on it with the pain medication. They said you can have trouble with urination or bowel movements. That hasn't been the case for me so far, but I guess we'll see. So just a couple other little things. You're gonna have to sleep with your sling on, which, from what I've heard from everybody online, the best way to do that is to sleep in a recliner. I don't have a recliner. I have a sectional couch that has like the little things that lean you back. So I've been sleeping in that. Even though you don't have to wear the sling directly after the dislocation, they tell you still to sleep with it on. So I've been sleeping in this sectional recliner thing for the last 2 weeks basically, and hasn't been too bad. Something I found that really helped was like padding the sectional, like that I put on a bunch of comforters. That helped. Like I noticed my hip got a little sore if I didn't do that. So padding it and getting a lot of pillows kind of underneath your arm, and then pillows, you know, behind you as well, so you're comfortable. That's something, you know, to be aware of. Um, and that's post surgery with anything. But yeah, so that is Latarjet day one. And my goal is to kind of keep giving a couple of updates on these first couple days. There's one other guy who did a really good video. He made like video one, video two, and then he jumped 11 months. So I kind of want to know what happened in those 11 months in between. So anyway, I hope this is helpful for people. If you have any questions, like please throw them down in the comments. Happy to respond and kind of let you know about my process. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye.